I want to see your happy face. I want to see a smiley, a land that's full of jolly. I'm ready to go, yeah. Come take me, go that place, where it is happening, where everybody dancing, where there is no blood on the dance floor, 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 blood on the dance floor. Anything you take, it's all on me. Doesn't matter if you're French or you're from Haiti. I see you, I know you see me. Let's make the world our family tree. From Africa down to overseas, you can dance on the land, you can dance in the sea. This is how it's supposed to be. Let's make happiness our destiny. I know that you care. Deep inside you want things to be fair. So follow me, let's go there, let's go there, let's go there. Where there is free. Step on the dance floor, step on the dance floor, step on the dance floor. Step on the dance floor, 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 step on the dance floor. Oh, 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 hey. Close your eyes, visualize it. Like a movie produced by Steven Spielberg, where a land, bright lights, everybody happy dancing, everybody sharing one love, one love. A land where there is and there is no land where there is no blood on the dance floor, blood on the dance floor, blood on the dance floor.
Good morning, everybody. Just a brief of what we hear today. This is a continuation of our conference that started formally yesterday. And today, according to our program, is that we go into serious training, capacity building, so that we will live here better than how we came in, and we'll go back to our respective places to
we give all glory to God Almighty for the successful opening ceremony yesterday. It was indeed by His grace and abundant mercies. History is not just about information. It is not just about attending another program or filling another seat. It is about capacity building. Because capacity is what turns potential into performance. It is what transforms effort into impact, and it is what ensures that progress is not temporal but sustainable. So as we begin this session, I encourage you, be present, be curious, ask questions, engage fully, because what you gain here is not just knowledge, it is the ability to do more, to do better, and to create lasting value wherever you find yourself. Because in the end, true development is not just what it is giving. What is given to us, it is what we are empowered to build. Thank you, and let's begin to build.
Let me start by commending the Nigerian chairman of NAIP. Somebody whispered to me just minutes ago that very soon you're going to be adding a support to your name. Commending you for the beautiful program you have packaged. and more for the selection of the resource persons. I don't know how you got them. And for me, the guest speaker today is somebody I have followed for some time because of his antecedents. Former minister, I noticed that it was only this group that were bold enough to call you Benjamin. The other ones will say Usita Chidoka. But I saw in their invitations Benjamin Usita Chidoka, former Corps Marshal, former minister. They also failed to add that you did these things at a young age. Building nations, even our anthem, national anthem, recognizes that we must build a nation. But individuals can only build communities. It is only institutions that can build a nation. I think that we have not started building a nation in Nigeria. I stand to be challenged. Building a nation will seek individual commitments, total commitments, not just government. Commitment to build the institutions necessary to build a nation. And I said to myself, who else should be talking to us about building a nation but Osita Chidoka? We cannot build a nation without building the institutions. And we're all glad with what you are doing with the Athena Center. And I assure you that each time you're on NTA reading out those data, I am tuned in. We must create trustworthy organizations like the judiciary, education, legislature, infrastructure that outlast leadership changes and foster national unity.
But today, I am not competent to talk to you about pharmacy, or talk to you about industrial pharmacy, or talk to you about production of drugs. But I'm going to talk to you about something that occurs in every association, in every organization, which is institutions, nation, leadership, governance, and of course I will link it to the future of the association. So I am more competent to talk to you about building institutions, building nations. So what is a nation? Let me start from here. A nation is a living consensus. Nations are imagined community. Can anybody tell me now where is Kwara? Can you point to a place on the ground that is written Kwara? No, Kwara is a creation of the mind. It is the military that decided to create a state called Kwara, and it became a state. If you get to the border of Nigeria, there is actually no line drawn by nature saying this is Nigeria. Nigeria is a creation of the mind. There is no such thing as Nigeria. There is no such thing as United Kingdom. It is not as a tree. I can point to this air conditioner and say this is an air conditioner. But you can't point to a country and say this is the country. No. What you point to is the social interaction, the consensus that brought the people together, the behavior of the people. That is when you will say, this is France, and these are Frenchmen. So you can have a country built on consanguinity, that is, people born of the same parents, so they can trace their history. As Ronald Reagan pointed out, you can live in France for many years, but you will not become a Frenchman. You can live in England for multiple years, but you will not become an Englishman. There is another type of country, the United States of America. where the country is just an idea. It is not by blood, it is not by birth, it is an idea. We hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal. If you subscribe to that idea, you become an American. So you see Nigerians who lived in America, born in America, and they become Americans because you subscribe to the philosophy. There is actually no place called United States of America. It's a creation of the mind. So I want you to get that number one, that when you have a nation, it is a living consensus. People who have come together, bound by the same rules, bound by laws, and saying, we will live together according to these rules and regulations. That is what forms a nation. So they are held together by shared belief, shared stories, and shared agreement. Even money is a creation of the mind. You work for 1 month and they pay you 500,000 naira. Pieces of paper. This time it's not even paper, it is a transfer. We don't even see the physical money. We confer value on those things. They do not exist as a matter of a river or a tree. They are creation of the mind. The human mind is such a powerful thing. And you are forced to obey it. So, if for instance, you earn 1 million and you do not remit your tax, the government can actually seize your property and enforce you to pay that tax. So there is a form of coercion that makes us accept these boundaries. If I walk into the US today and say, I'm a US citizen, the US government will take me to the border or take me to the airport and deport me from the US because they are enforcing the rules they have created. So Nigeria's central crisis is a crisis of consensus. We have not yet agreed deeply enough on what Nigeria is for. We disagree on the terms of our relationship. We disagree on federal character. We disagree. We carry fundamental different stories about what Nigeria means and what it owes them. A nation that cannot agree on the stories cannot build institutions to serve it. We need to agree on the story of Nigeria. People say that Nigeria stopped teaching history in schools, and that is why students are not. No, we didn't stop teaching history. What actually happened is that our history ended in pre-colonial and colonial Nigeria. Since after independence, we have not agreed on what our history is. And I will ask you, what caused the Nigerian Civil War? We have multiple accounts. How many soldiers died in the Nigerian Civil War? We don't know. How many Igbos were killed in the pogrom in the north? We don't know. The Biafra said 3 million Igbos were killed. What are their names?
Nameza akpata menyi Mwambe kisine patonye Mwambe kisine patonye Nasi mane nyadu jebenyi Odika sina akpata menyi Nasi mane nyadu jebenyi Odika sina akpata menyi Akwenyi gabu isi oche Akwenyi gabu isi oche Enyi na-aga na isoghị n'azụ Enyi na-aga na isoghị n'azụ Nasị ma nịnya chebe enyi Ọ dịgasị na-akpata m enyi Nasị ma nịnya chebe enyi Ọ dịgasị na-akpata m enyi Akwenyi ga-abụ isi oche Akwenyi ga-abụ isi oche Enyi na-aga na isoghị n'azụ enyi na-aga na ise n'azụ gwọgwọgwọ ngwọ gwọgwọgwọ ngwọ gwọgwọgwọ ngwọ gwọgwọgwọ ngwọ ige ntị gwọgwọgwọ ngwọ.
If you are able to make a product and produce it, I don't see why you cannot be able to market it in other parts of the globe. And being able to do that is to be able to successfully pass or go through the WHO pre-qualification. And that starts with you understanding the drug product you have produced, understanding the process as well as the product. Because once you are going to do your submission, with the agency, you must be able to package your module 3, which has the CMC documents and all the test, analytical and formulation data packaged effectively for the agency to believe that you understand what you have submitted. However you do your formulation, determines if you will have a good product to be able to give you a good performance at the clinic. And lastly, to have a good formulation now strategically makes it imperative that locally you can have product. You should be able to have product. And so as a scientist or you developing the drug, you know, this symbol means how, and how are you thinking. So the scientist has to think through to define what the formulation they are going to make based on the customer requirements. And what do I mean by customer requirements? Some people cannot take tablets, they cannot take capsule, they can only take liquid or injections. So those are the customer requirements which actually compels what kind of drug product you end up. So when it says integration of API and excipients into a dosage form, please hear me clearly. In generic organizations where they have made Johnson & Johnson, Novartis have already done the innovator, the brand, and then some people have the misconception that, okay, it has been done before. Let me just mix all the excipients and do my tablet compression. I have a tablet. People that have chemists all over Nigeria, sometimes they do that. So, but the integration means really understanding the mixture of the API and the excipients to have them properly integrated so that you are having one product that is supposed to be the medicine. And then the customer requirements, the type of dosage form depends on what your organization wants, what the patients need. That's why it is supposed to be patient-centric, because some patients only go with IV. Some may not take swallow, they cannot. And then it's only when these two are successfully done that you have, you will ensure the safety, there's efficacy and stability of the product. Remember, we live in a very tropical climate. Next slide. What are the objectives? We want to understand, establish core formulation principles, link science to quality outcomes, and finally, to align whatever we are doing to meet regulatory expectations. If after all these things, you develop a product and you do your submission with the agency, they will look at it, they say, all these things is rubbish because you did not align with their expectation. Next slide, please. Let's move very fast. Okay, keep moving. Oh, go back to that slide, let me say something. Why drug formulation is Nigeria's most critical investment? Very critical. It's the last speaker, we can compete, but if we do not start it from here, the understanding, we're not going to go anywhere. So, as we all know that the Nigerian pharmaceutical landscape, over 70% of the drugs are imported, and they are coming from India. The money that is spent, it's more than too much, just importing drugs they are in their, like in my where I work, you make a call to the call center, it's answered in India or Philippines. So they are outsourcing everything, and you're busy copying out the money. So the opportunity for us is there because we have the excipients, we have like the cassava and all those, we have the raw materials. But how do we harness it? How do we now go into production? What is drug formulation? Without looking at that, can you easily say what it is? It says there is an art, science and art, but it's not only science and art, there's also engineering. Why did I say engineering? When you are developing control release formulations, right, it's actually engineering. I'm going to use one of the examples that I worked on, Concetta, the one that has Oros technology, that where you have to drill a hole or use a polymer that is pH sensitive, that absorbs water and pushes out your drug. All those are engineered. So it's not just the art, but to understand the science. So the drug formulation is simply using these two things, including your engineering, to form a medicine that is safe, effective, stable, and good to the customer requirement, to the patient.
That gives us several steps, and that pre-formulation is a prerequisite to your formulation because they can determine errors early and reduce costs on the drug discovery. She also talked about quality by design, where you're building quality from the beginning and building also analytics from the beginning. Thus can also reduce your costs and reduce failure. And finally, she told us that AI has come to stay, that we as pharmacists, we should not be scared and we should not be shy to embrace AI. AI is here to make our life better, to make our work simpler. And they give us faster discovery, they can predict failure, and they give us process optimization and knowledge mining. AI can scan several thousands of applications and generate information that can be used in drug discovery.
As executives, no two persons talk at the same time. It's the mind of the others. So it took us time to understand that this is the right way to do it. Because as I'm talking now, we are having advantage because of this. If you ask a question or you are making a comment, I will have the advantage because I'm listening. So as executive, businessmen, business ladies, there are a lot of ethics that drive how we live. Right? So that's so this will do for now. At the time IIT starts running the academy, into experience, a lot of high positive products. So this is my question. And this is what Osita was saying. He used 70 to 80%. Remember the slide. He said 70 to 80%. After 5 years and the exact figure is 80%. 80%. Look, we have brilliant chemists graduating from the brilliant universities every year. A job for millions to come takes sometimes 10 plus days around. Then they have world-class logistics men who have sold other products. Local manufacturing capacity operates at less than 40%. I think they also had a figure percentage. Yet we have Barbara trained experts who understand global standards. Nigerian pharmacists and scientists are recruited globally. Yet our local industry is struggling to paradox here is not a lack of talent. The paradox is not a lack of personal and professional systems. You have the people with the discipline. The discipline is what we lack. I don't have the harmonies challenges. So how do you manage the people? Somebody is not listening from here. How of you will not see for this of 7 years. Facebook sector is so how can you get the right kind of effectiveness for that team? People don't listen. I've seen people who have been on the same for 15 years. How do you expect that person to be effective? He's coming to work every day, working day, because he doesn't have the time. He needs to get a better job. And the goal is all the other with that time. So insurance company, let me just make it out. I do training for my friends. So one day I was scared just to have a mandate and how the company is working. And he said, Solomon, can you imagine? This head of the department just resigned. And then I told him the place dropped his phone, the feature phone. So drop your feature phone. And he switched it on. The phone was completely black. So he called him and said, what's happening? Where are all our client data that are in this phone? He said, my father moved away to the new place to call us. That's a sign of a frustrated person and a perfect person. He moved his clients out of the team. So we must have a way of filling the pulse of the people working with us. Otherwise, we will not get anything. And when he was feeling very bad, he wasn't listening enough. If he were listening and doing some of the right things, he must have seen signs of his frustration, taking action to correct it. So mandate, all this will place the team of the truth. This conference statements all collaboration with Western executives is just what? Three groups must collaborate. The regulators the manufacturers and the distributors /pharmacists. It must collaborate. This group is filled with talented individuals. But again, talent will be not create. Collaboration requires 3 things. Align goals, that's how you trade. In the goal of excellence,
sales, logistics. Everybody that handles that commodity down is what? Logistics. Managing that flow day to day, logistics. Data, the person handling the technology, what? Logistics. Now what's then supply chain? Supply chain is not managing any flow. It doesn't look at movement. It looks at the decision-making expertise. Somebody tried to say it's theoretical, not necessarily theory. It is the decision-making expertise that looks at 3 flows to make a decision. Your ability, the person that enables a system make decisions. Supply chain management is a decision-making expertise. It's not a management of goods. It's not demand planning, it's not all-encompassing. No, supply chain management is a decision-making expertise that uses 3 flows to make a decision. 1, the flow of goods, yes? So whatever the logistics is doing, supply chain is looking at that flow. 2, flow of information, flow of money. The core difference is that supply chain looks at the use of money, the movement of money, everything that has to do with money, looks at information. And information that supply chain uses is not just information on the commodity, consumption data, sales data. It's looking at what? Tax. It's looking at policies. It's looking at cost of land. It's looking at broad information. It's looking at the kind of information we're talking about. And then it's looking at, okay, multiple commodities, whatever that is moving. is looking at what? Flow of money. Without looking at money, without having understanding of money, who is paying, where is the money coming from, that's not supply chain. And that's why supply chain handles what? Markets. When you don't have someone in your team or your system that understands the market, we call it supply chain that is headless chicken. How many of you have killed chicken that didn't really die? What happens? And it makes a what? What does it do? It makes a mess. Makes a huge what? Mess. So why we have issues really in our ecosystem is what? We were trained to manage medicines, to produce all those things. We're not trained to manage the market. And that's the key issue. We're not trained in some of the things that we want to make changes to. And one of the key things, so what enables ability to make a change in the market? Why is supply chain so important? Let me give an example. Again, I studied pharmacy, so what makes my ability to inform market change in the country? People say, oh, we hear about it, people, they don't really necessarily know what I do. They may know a bit of what the organization does, RPSM. You hear us in different things, training, RPSM, pharma company, RPSM. Why are we known in that kind of, for those that know us, and it's a bit confusing. But what we're basically doing is that we are controlling the market. We're controlling the medicine access market, you know. So one of the ways that you can control markets, and let me even go to what's the market. Let's understand. Maybe we use this example of why donors have over years controlled the market. You know one example of how donors control market? Have you heard of WHO pre-qualification? How many of you have heard of WHO pre-qualification? So anytime I go for conferences and they talk about WHO, I tell them it's a wicked market system to dominate. You don't want us to buy and manufacture, then you bring WHO because it's a market shaping. When a donor wants to dominate your market, they bring quality. And they compare us to Pfizer. Pfizer in 1900 was a shop. And they've had years and years, they are old. Then you have a company that is 5 years, you compare that 5-year company. So you use terms like WHO. Quote me, I've campaigned against it. It's a killer of industry. It is what it is. So now, and these are what shifts market. So before 2021 or 20, I think it's 2021, what happened before 2021? What was the major thing 2020? COVID. One of the best gifts that God gave us is COVID. Because in COVID, global markets did not find their way in. We were forced to manufacture. We were forced. God bless us. Don't even kill yourself. So before COVID, the donors controlled our medicine access in Nigeria. They control the market. How you control it is who is the biggest buyer of medicine? Tell me. Who is the biggest buyer? In any economy, who is the biggest buyer? Government. See, if you are not doing business with government, I always say, you're a PTM. You're a small player. Government is the biggest buyer of medicine. Anywhere you go.
Production Quality Assurance faculty will be continuing with lean manufacturing principles. So that's the class holding right now.
In case of lean manufacturing in pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria, the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria faces a lot of challenges like high cost of API, supply chain volatility, and also high cost of finance, which many of the facilitators have already talked about. And lean can actually help us in cutting some of those costs by maximizing patient value and eliminating waste. Because in our manufacturing processes, there are a lot of steps that are actually waste. Some of the processes are contributing to waste. And those are the things that we need to look at. goals is to increase rent the first time. If you do something and you get it right the first time, you are actually saving your company a lot of money. But if you have to rework, then you are actually wasting resources, wasting time, and it's not going to help the patient, because the company will pass the cost on to the patient, and is not what the patient actually is not value. You're not adding value to the patient. So the impact is reduced lead time. Lean actually helps you to reduce lead time and lower inventory cost. Because when you have a lot of inventory, there's cost for maintaining that inventory. And the patient is not really, if the patient is aware you're moving that cost to him or her, they are not really willing to pay for it. It's not value adding to the patient. So Lean will help you to also increase your compliance with WHO and NAIP. Next slide. So what do we mean by lean manufacturing? It's actually a systematic approach of identifying and eliminating waste, which are non-value adding activities in your process through continuous improvement. Because if you have wastage, you are making your company, because finance is expensive, the little resources your company have, you're now making them to spend it on maintaining inventory and having a rework, and it's not going to be a good thing for the patient as well, because the patient is paying for what is not adding value to him or her. So lean manufacturing principle actually originated from Toyota production system, and it focuses on delivering maximum value to customers while maximizing resources, time and effort. I don't know whether any of you remember, next slide, whether any of you remember the saying, is a slogan from Toyota, good thinking, good products. Who has heard that before? So this is the origin. The thought process that made Toyota to get it right the first time. It is the thinking that goes to eliminating waste and getting it right the first time. So that slogan started since 1953, and it is the basic thinking that has guided Toyota's journey and led them to the just-in-time and the Jidoka concept. We are going to explain what that means. Just-in-time means making what is needed. Or if you produce something and get it right the first time, you are actually saving resources. If you have to rework, the time you should have used for other things, and the work will cost more, it is going to cause a lot of disruption. You're going to do a lot of investigation and all that to find out what led to that deviation that you have to have not out of spec products. So just in time is about making what is needed, when it is needed, in the amounts that it is needed. And Jidoka is when there is abnormality, machines automatically stop and people suspend their work. Why do they do that? They don't want to pass defective product to the next stage. So that is the strength of Toyota. That is what makes them think. And that is the thought behind that good thinking, good product. And Toyota actually enables every employee on the floor, if you identify any issue, you need to flag it. For them, that person can actually stop the process. Everybody has the right. You don't need to kind of report to your manager. But because we are in a kind of controlled industry, you cannot do that, because there should be a process of change control. So for farmer, everybody in the industry it should be enabled.
Let's look at integrating the field for the various things. Now, in healthcare, social surely is no longer defined by isolated excellence not defined by innovation because it was innovating something we noticed. The best, the company that has the best operational excellence in production. You have to therefore use a strategy tool that manages across time, which is product life cycle, across products and across markets. That's why BCG and answer matrix comes in. Because you cannot find this in the textbook. NAIP has decided that they will make these slides available to all of you. If you register officially with your email address and what do you call it? WhatsApp. Innovation may be helping you to try to accelerate your products, but value erosion no longer stays this long. I remember we launched Reading in 1980, and it was still market leader as the year 2000. That is willing to work for 20 years, even when the patent had expired. In today's world, drug, it takes years. After you have filed for patent, the maximum number of years you are actually able is 40 years. If it's a highly competitive product, they do for additional 7. Now it is 21. But within the first 40 years, we have spent 6 to 8 years for real phase 2, 3, 4 development. What this means that you have already lost substantial part of the first 7 years. And so the second 7 years, we just barely break even. So in order for us to know which product to drop, or product to continue to promote, we use these 3 tools. And the solution is not in working on them, but in thinking smarter. So this, the central theme of this lecture is product life cycle, which is related to time, the answer of metrics, which is related to products, to market, and the BCG matrix, which is related to products. It's going to be used as a powerful multidimensional framework for sustaining growth, for strategic clarity, and long-term value creation in healthcare. And this course is meant for those who are in marketing, for those who are CEOs, who wants to know how to manage their product portfolio, to know which product they should leave and which product they should continue. So we use these 3 metrics combined to choose the product that has specialties we go and the product we leave with the customer. So when we had management buyout in 1987, product life cycle is more like the cycle of a man who are first in the womb, R&D, before we became available to the bomb. Then we started to grow. That is the introductory phase. And then we started to take the first leap. By the time we started to take the first leap, we get to anywhere in the house or in the city room. That growth phase. And then we grew till about the age of 21. And then we had full maturity. And after maturity, we start at about the age of 70, we start with 75, we start with strength. Because the cartilage are no longer the same one. So therefore a period of pre-introduction, introduction, growth, maturity, and impact. So where is the product in our journey? We have drug discovery, clinical trials, then we launch the products, we grow fast, it eventually leads to maturity and we get to the stage where we have patient expiration. Generics come up and our products start to decline. In service, like products, we create a new service, like a demanding service, we roll out a new idea, we scale up, we optimize, and then that service is replaced by product. Product life cycle management is distinctive. It tells us where we are and not what to do next. The answer matrix tells us why product life cycle tells us where is this product in our journey of life. The answer matrix tells us how should we grow. It provides for strategic options. It addresses the market situation. Should we penetrate the market? Should we develop the market? Should we develop the product? Should we develop the spending at 10 million. 3-4 years later, we introduced the 20 million. To allow for the 6 cars instead of 2 cars taking 1 step. That was product development. Then we launched fairly in primary is Memoria in 1987. That was not product development, that was market development. Then we produced Peggy-9. That was both product development and market development, market penetration. We produced Peggy-9 in order to increase the awareness and psychological attachment that fighting is not just only for therapy. It can also be used in actions, pain, so we introduced Peggy-9 position.
Goal of sales and marketing in Nigeria. So if you look back the old days and see those employees that were trained by Siba Gegi when it was almost impossible for a black man to attain a leadership or a managerial position. These are like the first black pharmacists employed by the white to become sales managers and leaders in the pharmaceutical space. So what we have today, if you have seen the faculty, is that we have very rich and depth of knowledge coming in from generations of successful leaders who have built quite a lot in our society. So I would ask you to please make welcome our facilitator, pharmacist Sabah. As you know, we are going to learn quite a lot from him. I will be traveling from here to there because some of our other colleagues are not around, so I will be moving from here to the other room. Sit down, make notes, interact, ask questions. For sales, you know how it is. You must engage and then listen before you can. It's not a one-way traffic. It's a two-way street. So please make the best out of this session.
You get the skills and practice the skills on daily basis. Not just a plan. You need to put whatever you learn today into action, and the ones you have learned before, and it's a daily affair. The more you practice what you have gained, the better you become. It's a daily affair. I'm telling reps, I don't know whether they are reps here, supervisors, or sales managers. The day you refuse to make a call, you have lost that day. It's a daily affair. And I know that some of the companies give you daily, the number of calls you do per day, isn't it? Weekly targets, daily targets, quarterly targets, and you're not meeting them. If you're not meeting them, the result will not come. You can't meet your time. For example, some companies say do 10 calls per day, do 12 calls per day, and you're doing only 5 calls, 6 calls without the knowledge of your supervisor, and you think you're cheating anybody. If you know these skills, it's not only for selling products, selling ideas. You know how to engage people, you know how to interact with people, you know how to ask questions, the right questions, and know how to respond. So let's begin. I believe that Larry had mentioned that the guys here are sales people. Either you're a sales person or you are interested in sales, or you are a supervisor. I usually start my training a trained mind is better than the streets. A trained mind is, if you're trained, you become better for it. In this way, you must not consider what it is to say, tell me what to do. What advice would I possibly give? No. The fundamental request is train my mind to adapt to any circumstance. In this way, if circumstances take you off straight, you will be desperate. This philosophy was trying to explain the benefits of being trained, and the training affects your mind, the way you think, the way you react, the way you act. This is the opponent route. basic product knowledge and transaction process. Very clearly that most of them are medical reps or sales persons, and so you may have get in train. So that is train. But what we're doing that you need to put that maybe what you already have. And if you do that, then what's that? The key techniques include consultative relationship and discovery. When you're asked to go to customers, we are not going there to teach them. We are going there to have a conversation with them, collaborate with them, and make them to begin to make buying decisions. That's the essence of the skills. You learn the skills you employ in your engagement with customers, and so that you begin to lead them. You journey together and then arrive at decision making in terms of sales. I said that consultative relationship must be collaborative. You are bringing something and the customer is bringing something. To uncover unconsidered needs. There are needs that are there. Needs that are not being satisfied. And you're coming to satisfy the customer's needs.
How do you make them stick? How do you make the story stick? Okay? Create whatever information, create peace around whatever information you want to provide. Make them colorful, use hyperbole, and it sticks and it passes from one generation to the other. If I ask you now, who is the wisest person in history? You probably would think King Solomon. Very good. And what story do you associate with it? Of the Bible. You get it? So who are the first humans to inhabit the earth? Probably the Prince Adam and Eve. And you remember the story of God picking the earth, shaping humans out of it and breathing life into them. That kind of color, that kind of, also, among the Yorubas, the myth is the first person on earth is Oduduwa. And how did he come? All the earth was water and he was dropped by change. Yeah? Onto the ground. In his hand, he has a piece of earth and a cup. So he dropped a piece of earth on the water and put the cup. So the cup scattered the earth all over. That's how the world can go. So this is how story or information were passed across in the very early stages. Okay? So what's the next stage? Printing. Printing has been with us, BC, 3000, 2000 BC. But it became, it came to mass production, let me say, in the 15th, 16th century. But then it had to be okay? Only stick it either on coffee or pamphlets or newspapers and the rest of it. And the limitation was also that it was not in color, it was blank and the rest of it. Don't let me miss the story about how marketing was done. What was the limitation of the earlier situation I painted, where you only talk people in small groups? So if you are selling something, okay, in that situation, only talk to people in small groups. And the limitation of that is that your product can only do so much, or the information you want to pass on can only do so many. And one advantage of yours is interactive and aspect. But evolving after this was the traditional media. Okay? At the beginning of the 19th century, we had the billboards, we had the radios, we We had newspaper, we had TV, and we had direct mail. This will reach so many more people, and it also triggered the creative essence in our professional. You know, we could tell stories, we could act, we could do graphics that are very colorful and that can stick as well. But it also has limitation. Though it reached a large number of people, it was only in one direction. Communication was just in one direction. And that led to this famous saying, I hope I got here, by this John Wanamaka. He said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. So you can imagine the dilemma of the marketing manager who has to use those traditional media in those things. You know, just throw money at it. But because the information wasn't in both directions, TV tests how effective and what their communication was. Okay, so that took us to the next level, where we got into social media. The beauty of social media was it engaged even the receiver of the information in contributing content. Okay, you can immediately, at the point you are receiving the information, give a feedback. I like this, I don't like it. Okay, you can sleep in a hotel and immediately go to their website and say your service was beautiful or your service is practical.
Let's discuss clinical outcome first. What is it? If you practice industrial pharmacy like we just talked about, there's a big disconnect between those who practice it and the patient. Because you don't see them, they don't see you. How do you know the drug is promoted for them? Or they don't know. So the outcomes can be so varied from here to disease mitigation. We used to say we reduce morbidity and mortality, right? But outcomes in this day and age is way beyond that. It can be any measure of both the actual disease itself or surrogate, what we call surrogate outcomes. Surrogate outcomes are more like lab results. Okay, you give this person this, and the lab is no longer saying this. But that may not translate to clinical, any good clinical outcome for the patient. Even so, when you are doing these things, you make sure a lot of companies claim because the surrogate outcome performed so well, they will be hyping that. But it's not necessarily translating into clinical outcomes. So outcomes can be anything that is the goal of the therapy that you're doing or that the patient is taking. Medication, do you think there will be any credibility to medical practice if we don't have medicine? I'm not sure about that. And that is correct. It is true. If we don't have medication, there is no credibility for medical practice at all. But that is not to say there are other things in medical practice that does not make medication. We have radiology, surgeries, even though you see, okay, surgical specialists need to take medicine or antibacterial or even the anesthetic drugs that are given are drugs. The appropriate manufacturing, distribution, and sales is what will guarantee the outcome. And I can, when we go further, I will let you know individually where most people have a disconnect between clinical outcomes and any of these functions. Sales and marketing teams, particularly sales here, your responsibility is to communicate accurate medication use to prescribers. If you fumble that part of it, it's likely that prescriber may not use the drug appropriately. the importance of feedback in the goal of this practice is important. Okay, if you go back, if you're a sales rep and you go to a doctor's office, it is good to ask if they prescribe the drug. Has any patient been back telling you how the drug works? If you have that feedback, this is you trained concern for the outcome. If there is a problem with it, it's your responsibility to take it back to the company and say, this is what I heard. And there is actually where I come from, there is a very good reporting system for things like adverse events, unintended events, like giving something for malaria and it's causing something. So if you hear that kind of feedback, you are obligated to take it back to the company. So that's the part that put the feedback. Good manufacturing practice. I've never been in production before. But it should guarantee consistency of drug delivery. A lot of people, I don't know about here, a lot of manufacturing companies have standardized procedures they use for manufacturing that guarantees whether it's a tablet, a capsule, or any of those, they have to deliver the same medication each time. It's a promise that you are making, both in bioavailability and bioequivalence. Even a small deviation from batch to batch can affect the patient outcome. Depending on, if you guys remember pharmacy school, the therapeutic index of the drug. I mean, if he has a very narrow therapeutic index, it's not as forgiving as something with a large therapeutic. They used to tell us that was digoxin, for instance. If you make a mistake, even a very narrow mistake in digoxin dosing, either due to your error or the error of manufacturing, they are likely to see a big difference in the outcome for the patient.
Performance management is the continuous process of setting clear expectations. After you set clear expectations, coaching and developing the people that you work with, setting the results, tracking performance, and at the end of the day, also measuring and rewarding it. We understand that anywhere there is underperformance, it must be that we are not following this procedure. Set clear expectations. What do we expect if you are an employee?
What is your expectation? What do you expect you to achieve in a week, in a month, in a quarter, in a year? That's the first thing. What is the expectation? Because very often the expectations are not clear, and the man who is managing may not even know what he's managing, not talk of the person who is expected to be managed. So in performance management, as it affects work in an industry, it is first setting up what is the clear expectation. Then coaching. It's not enough to set the expectation, but you have to coach and support your employee to. But the point here is that it is a continuous exercise. It's not a yearly appraisal. It's not a half-yearly appraisal. In the pharma industry, it is how we ensure that every person, whether you are the sales team, you are the quality team, you're in the medical team, you're in marketing, or even the support services of accounting, IT, that every employee knows what success looks like. If you say you're not successful, what does it mean? If you are successful, what does it mean? And not only that you know what it is, but you are assisted through a mentoring, coaching methodology to know how to achieve that objective. And after we have told you how that objective is to be achieved, we also monitor and track to make sure that it is achieved. And when it is achieved, our patients get safe and quality medicines and we attain our financial goals. It is fairly straightforward, but it's often not followed through. Because if we do this on a regular, repeated basis, then there is the likelihood that every organization will be doing well. In short, performance management is how we make sure every person in our team knows what to do, has the help to do it well, and is recognized when they deliver. It's a continuous process. There is always a break. Sometimes people know what to do. People know what is expected, but they don't know how to do it. And the manager and the supervisor does not realize that it is his job to make sure that the person knows how to do the job you hired him for. He ought to do it. When you ask, why should he not know? He's not a graduate. Did he not say he read pharmacy? What is wrong? What is difficult in doing? That's what I've seen supervisors tell the people they supervise. And when performance comes, we start wondering. So this is where to go. And if you take it down to our country, down to every aspect of our lives, the thing is, do we have the clear expectations? Do we know what we're expected to do? Do we know how to do it? Is our performance monitored and feedback given? And at the end of the day, what do we take away? And is it in line with what our expectations are and what benefits the business, and also as we are pharmacists and healthcare professionals, what benefits us?